Alright, welcome to Raising Funds for World Domination, Day 77. So here's the typical intro. No updates on next hearing date. Today, I did not get around to working on any new videos. Yeah, actually today I didn't do too much other than cleaning and catching up on laundry and catching up on some random stuff. Otherwise, we can continue on with work on the terminal block mining simulation game. Hey buddy, I was wondering how much you're hoping to get funded. The goal is to get $12 billion. I think that'll get me started. OrthoPlex64 sends wave. How's it going? Alright, let's make sure it still works. Are you trying to just buy a whole country? So I actually have I made a long form video to describe my full world domination plans. If you check my channel, it's I think the second to last video I published. Alright, help menu works. You're a genius at this. Thank you for the recognition. It takes one to know one. All right, that looks like it's not having any issues. Let me think. So I made quite a bit of progress at untangling this rat's nest of invalidated regions and active states and stuff. Dev Chat, says Robert, just popping in, saying hi. Hope your day is great. Your code is well optimized. Yep, it's getting to be fairly well optimized. I hope your day was full of lots of graphs that go up, lots of gains in the stock and options markets. Galactic Past says, hello Robert, how's it going? Good graphs, all-time highs. Excellent. Keep doing that and then become a billionaire. Right, that's an important change to check. You don't use IDE? I had been trying to use an IDE for a while, and then I kind of got away from it. Just fell back to old habits. I guess I need to research into it more. I thought if I just used an IDE, it would make my compile times a bit faster, because it would could maybe like cache some stuff, but I don't know if it's a thing with the like Maven life cycles or whatever, but I found like even for just changing the code to know if I have compile errors, I have to like click the thing and do a build on it, because otherwise if I don't, it'll just have like outdated information. There's probably some features that I can turn on to fix that, but I do actually pop into it. Yeah, I use IntelliJ now and then if I need to debug something. If there's like some, I think I actually used it today for a couple of minutes where I had some kind of bug and I just wanted to set a breakpoint on something, launch the program, and inspect the state. API and a terminal is the ID, all the ID you need. Yeah. thought I was programming C for a second. $791. World domination. Yep. Remember trying to compile some C code on a MacBook. Version only I've ever had. GCC was alias to Clang. Wow. I guess it would make sense if they'd to do that. If it probably makes a lot of random software out there, build processes that would otherwise fail actually work. But it could be pretty confusing if you're not expecting that. Bizarre because I'm pretty sure command line option syntax for GCC and Clang are different. I would imagine there are differences, but most likely, I think for a bunch of stuff. I remember back when I was doing a lot of C, it was there were quite a few flags that were kind of interchangeable, but I'm sure like the more advanced ones are different. Will this game be subject to the 35% tariff? Is that what it is now? I don't even know what the tariffs are. They just change all the time, and they're on and off, and I can't keep track of it. On top of whatever they're globally for steel, aluminum, and copper. Oh yeah, I saw there was some copper tariff that came on in the last few days, and it made copper prices go crazy. Orthoplex 64 says taco. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Taco Tuesday. That's the phrase about Donald Trump and changing his mind. For some of the political news, I kind of tuned out of it. It's just it's the same thing over and over again. It's a good time to buy those materials from Canada for the deep sea port. Is it, or is it too late? Have they already gone up? Got your permit. Excellent. Congratulations. You can now drive. What's going on tonight? Same thing as last night. We're working on the block mining simulation game. I'm working on just kind of like, I don't know, I call it like pigeonhole refactoring, just slowly untangling the rat's nest of this system I have for updating regions of the screen in order to support some more refactoring and performance improvements. In particular, one I have this like array data structure. So right now I'm just using arrays to keep track of what's on the screen. And I'm going to eventually make the like dimensions and whatnot controlled by, this will actually be, I'll probably replace these with my 3D circular buffer class to make it a lot faster. I'm going to try not to crash into things now. Excellent. This coding stuff wild. I'm glad you like it. By the way, how long has this taken? I've been working on this a while now. I guess I've been working on it throughout the last 77 days. And then prior to that, I think I probably started the project. It was maybe more than a year before that. Actually, I think I started quite a while ago, and then I didn't work on it at all for a year, and then I started up. It's been a while. I've been working on it. It's honestly, there's quite a few pretty general data instructions and stuff, so there's enough stuff in it that technically I could probably, with the code that's here, I could probably pretty easily turn it into an actual 3D game. I mean, I should probably even just for fun experiment with a well, I don't know if so at the time. I could probably get it working as a 3D game with sixels, and then have a 3D game directly in the terminal. But first I'll get the 2D version working decently. I'd buy it if it was on Steam. Yeah, I don't think it'll be on Steam for a long time. Actually, it's not even that good. It's not. There's not a lot of game content. I'm still mainly just working on some of the basic systems. I have been kind of slowly adding a drip of new playability, but I've been the first few versions were everything was hard coded. It was just like the inventory was just a fixed offset on the screen, and so if you resize the terminal, it would break or not show up. Or but now that's all dynamic, and I can easily add new frames now. So I could easily add a crafting frame. That might be one of the next incremental things. It wouldn't take would not take too much time. I just realized that's probably a bug. That should be L.width, but it's got width. Actually, I guess it would be the same because it was assigned before. Me6 to have crafting. It already does basically have crafting, but it's not very good. You can only craft 3 items. I could easily add more, but there's quite a few playability issues. There are certain terminals where it just doesn't render properly, and it's it's quite slow. So I'm going to fix those. Experiencing lag is really just kills the experience. So once that's gone, then I can focus more on the interesting stuff. Hi, do you have something against find and replace? Do you mean for this specific piece of code? I could have used find and replace. I do often use it. There's a small enough number of replaces here that it doesn't make sense. And there's a couple instances that can't be replaced because they're initializing the thing that I'm replacing it with. Any programmers in the chat? Usually it's mostly programmers. The view count's pretty low tonight. But then it's also a fairly boring stream because I'm productive and not. I usually talk to chat a bit, but it's also I like making progress. So it's kind of nice. People are not asking me too many questions. Interesting. Complains about line 22, but not line 121. This will make it more verbose, but this will fix my warning. Thundering right now. Does Canada even get thunderstorms? There was one last night. We've had a lot of really muggy weather lately. I guess everywhere I've been seeing on various places. There's lots of storms and floods and weird weather lately. Oh man, now I got it. You know what? Got a good one. Robert, would you support Canada become a state in the United States? Or Canada becoming multiple states? I think it'd be great. Would be the United States of North America. I guess. I mean, honestly, these questions are like, these questions are above my pay grade. I don't have the like politicians and stuff talk about fixing things and separating from things and doing trade deals and doing tariffs and not doing tariffs, and it'd be great if we could just like decide on something and then commit to it and focus on like building housing, improving the economy. I know there's a lot of people that like we had the whole like elbows up fad where everyone was like we had this patriotic surge. Like before that, people were like ashamed to celebrate Canada Day and stuff, and then suddenly everyone, especially the older generation, was like super proud to like there's a thing on there about some person got together and they put a flag up on every single balcony in some apartment building here because they wanted to show their patriotism all of a sudden. And I was like, oh, that's, you know, that's great. I mean, flags are great, but what about like focusing on improving our institutions and fixing the military and other stuff? Like it's all kinds of crazy stuff. Like we have a pipeline, we have an oil pipeline, and the oil pipeline goes through the United States. It doesn't even like to go from one coast of our country to the other. It goes into the states. So why didn't we build the pipeline through our own country so we can control it? Because for a while they were talking about retaliating with the tariffs, and they were saying like, oh, we'll show the U.S. we'll shut off the pipeline. Like some politicians were threatening that, but they didn't realize at the time that the pipeline actually goes through the U.S. So in order to shut off the American access to our oil, we'd have to shut off our own access to the oil. But you can't. Yeah, either way, like I think if we want to be patriotic, we gotta like behave like you know, our own sovereign country and look out for our own interests. And if we don't want to do that, then I guess we'll just submit and we'll just allow ourselves to be conquered by whoever wants to come here and conquer us. All right, I think that is what I want. Doesn't Canadian military consist of mostly of American equipment? I'm honestly not super sure about the exact like composition and but I would assume like I know we have some old planes and stuff from the 1960s. I assume anytime we do like procurement of like modern equipment, it's basically always bought from the US. I think some of that stuff is based on like there's like NATO obligations where like NATO is not only a military agreement, it's also like an economic and standardization agreement. So I think there's certain countries are required to buy equipment from certain other countries. So it's all like standardized and interchangeable. And it's also like a nice, that way like one person can focus on one country can focus on building one specific thing. And ideally become good at it. All right, this is great. It doesn't crash. Fantastic. We should leave NATO? Why? Then we're all alone. It's also a stupid expense when other countries don't even pay their fair share. Yeah, like Canada has historically been not paying our fair share, and we keep saying, don't worry, we'll pay our fair share, and then we don't. And then we say, by 2030. I think they recently said that they're going to get serious, but I don't know, will they? It's above my pay grade. I haven't. People say US should leave. NATO have very poor understanding of geopolitics. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable statement. America is probably the one country that leaving NATO would make sense for. Yeah, I mean, that's I think that does make sense. It's not above your pay grade. You're going to dominate the world. Yeah, I mean, I'm working there. It's one step at a time. I can't get too arrogant. I gotta get that deep water port going first. Will Trump ever actually leave NATO? Just like how he isn't releasing Epstein list. Yeah, I don't know. That's that's a whole debate that I don't have any input on that. I mean, it's the news just like the news cycle just keeps talking about it and over and over and over again, and then like there's no progress on it. I hope it just there's so many more productive things we can argue about. Taco ain't doing anything. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, watching the news cycle, there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff going on geopolitically right now. Like I keep getting distracted and watching the news, and it feels like, oh, this is, I'm wasting my time with nonsense. But it is like, historic things that have not. I don't know. Whatever happens over the next few years, I think is going to be a big deal long term. Like there was two ships that were sunk by Yemen, like two civilian cargo ships that were sunk in the past few days, and that's like. I mean, it did get news, but there's it's kind of buried amongst all the other news coverage. But that's massive. That's like a foreign military attacking civilian vessels and sinking them, and it's just like, whatever. What else is new today? You're going to have to deal with North American geopolitics when you get your new country going. Yeah, I mean, figuring out the whole geopolitical calculus it's going to have to be something. Fortunately, there's AI now. I can just I could ask ChatGPT. Like, I can literally ask ChatGPT to just be like, I'm starting my own new country. Please build me a strategic geopolitical plan on foreign relations for all 100 countries. And I'll be like, certainly, here you go. And it'll understand all the nuances of every country. I mean, it's amazing that you can do that. One has to imagine that there are people in government who are doing the same thing. Recently, I've kind of realized ChatGPT isn't that good. I noticed it tends to change details if you ask the same questions. Sometimes the answer changes. Yeah, it's kind of amazing how it is non-deterministic like that. Like, usually on a lot of programs where there's non-determinism, it would at least allow you to specify a seed value. So you could, if you specify the seed value, like in Minecraft world or something, you specify the Minecraft seed, and it's random, but you always get the same deterministic randomness. But that nuance seems to be completely lost on these language models. Didn't notice that about Yemen sinking ships. That's crazy. Yeah, they sunk 2 of them, and one per day, and they released these super well done propaganda videos and stuff, and some of the civilian crew were killed, and like the fact that we are in an age now where that's barely news is kind of crazy. Good for simple info, not for more complex. Yeah, I mean for compared to like I'm sure people in government are still using it for like high stakes stuff, because it's probably still better than what some people in government would produce. So you have lots of time for simple boilerplate code. Yeah, that's still on my to-do list. I need to actually get my hands on one of these Claude AI tools or whatever and practice it. Well, I don't know. I need to get some more long form videos out. I hate it when I tell ChatGPT to edit an image and it still remakes the image and then does the edits. Yeah, I've had a few of the image generation things I've asked it for again, and it'll just I'll ask it to change something and I just get the exact same image back. I stepped in front of my microwave while making tenders. I felt the air hotter. It's probably just the exhaust from it. Probably not microwaves. I guess you could test it if your Wi-Fi signal gets bad while you're using it. PDW Robert speculating whether the government has used AI. May not know about the recent report about the U.S. Health and Human Services with vague citations. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they are using it, but the question is to what extent. Like, I'm sure that lots of low-level employees are using it, but like, would they be using AI for like geostrategic analysis? Like, I'm sure they're well, I'm not sure, but it would not be surprising if like people are using it for like foreign relations and stuff. Because I think like Trump in the last few days was talking to I think it was the leader of Libya, and Trump didn't know that I guess English was the first language, the spoken language of Libya, which I didn't know that either. I probably heard that once but forgot about it. But I'm sure ChatGPT would know that for a fact. So at least that would give you a better result. Day 77, something lucky is sure to happen. Yeah, I never thought that way, but I guess it seems like the progression of this series is like if the day number is interesting, more people will click on it and it'll generate like it's just a day. It's a day to celebrate if it's like a milestone day. So far, the best performing day was day 69. So I guess day 100, that'll probably be a celebration day. Now you can ask Rock 4. TBH, I would just delegate every position in your new government to lots of different AI models. Yeah, that's a decent way to make it scale. $420 will be great. Yeah, that would be, but it'd probably be a lot of people would attend that one. All right. You could constantly changing fractional radix, so every day is 69. Yeah, I guess you need a fractional radix, but to make it every day. But I don't know. It needs to be special. People would catch on to that scam quick. Just rename the past 8 streams to another 69th. I think it's people would catch on. It's the repeat people that tune in, who I think are I think people need to see the progress over time. This does not have any visible bugs. I spent a ton of time debugging, like getting this overlay to work. So I want to make sure I don't break it again. Oh, overlay is under the barrels. Not sure what that means in this context. I was talking about the help menu that appears over. So I have multiple layers that make up the screen. So when I make changes, so there's 3 layers at the moment. One is for the player character that moves over the terrain. There's actually a recent thing that I split that off to a new layer. And the help menu itself is its own layer, and then I have a Z index ordering for them. There's some brown barrel looking things over the menu. At what point? It might have been the log emojis. That's what I used to represent wood in the game. How many lines of code are there in your game now? I think the last time I checked, well, I guess I can check now. Find dot name star.java dash exec cat file think that's syntax tail-n plus whatever. So that's without the header removed. So 16,000 lines of like actual code. So 6,000 of that is if comments are comments are not really counting. That's 207 lines per stream. More than I thought. For some of the streams, my main goal is like to decrease the lines. So lines of code doesn't necessarily equate to much being accomplished. And sometimes it's a step in the wrong direction. Yesterday I bought a generator for $75. And today I've spent over $80 in parts to fix it. Well, if you end up with a working generator, that's probably a good buy. $160 for a generator. I assume. I guess it depends what high capacity it is, but I assume a generator is at least like, $400 or $500. Unless it's the solar generator from a calculator. Yeah, that would be a very bad buy. One of the older Honda EX 1000 models. Can't buy them that size anymore. That quality. 900 watts max output. I guess if you can't buy them anymore, that's maybe. What do they? What do they go for? I don't know enough about them to know if it's for sure a good buy, but it sounds like it's probably a good buy. Assuming that it only takes $80 to fix it. Code is pain. You have to maintain it. One of my favorite things to do when coding is deleting code. Yep. Actually, that's probably one of the first things are gonna. I think with like these AI tools, deleting code might actually be one of the. I have a feeling that's going to be one of the best features. A handyman win. Alright, no crashes. They go for upwards of 300 in fair condition. Okay, I guess that's not as Sounds like you're making some profit on it, but it's, I guess, depending on how much time you put into it, the ROI is probably borderline questionable. Using AI to refactor, improve, comment document might work well. Yeah, I kind of, it will be kind of fun to actually try that for once and for all once I get around to looking at that. Although it's probably still a bit down on my to-do list. I need to get some more videos out to get more revenue coming in. You could tell the owner was fiddling with it to run right. A ton of the settings were out of whack. Carburetors messed up. Fuel shutoff don't work. Interesting. Do you plan to use it, or are you planning to sell it? Oh, I didn't want to do that. I hope I committed. Let me compile again. RM is my favorite Linux command, especially when you run it on the wrong file. I want to keep it and use it to charge batteries for my larger battery system. The power quality is really bad compared to modern inverter generators. That sucks. Yeah, if I had more time to play around, time and resources to play around with that stuff, it'd be fun to do some like solar charging stuff, off-grid power supply stuff. LOL, MM, MM. I don't know what that's in reference to. Woodfloor Alchemist says, what's up? Not too much. Just working on the block mining simulation game. In fact, gasoline will melt through certain plastics. Yeah, I think I knew that. Like plastic cup I was trying to use to drain fuel into. Yeah, I know a plastic bag is, they're the same thing. They're all petroleum products. One is solubility, one has solubility in the other. We have petrol generator and the revs fluctuate. Try cleaning carb. How much better? I watched that video you suggested. It was interesting. hedge funds buy all the plumbing business in area then raise prices. Oh yeah, the one about that Homebrew released. Yeah, I don't know that. It's interesting for you to know about what may be coming to your sector of the economy, or everyone's sector of the economy now. Plastic's kind of just gasoline, but longer molecules. Yeah, it makes sense. I have the same. I have the same piece of code here twice. I don't think they'll do the same with hardwood flooring companies. Too much of a craft. No license needed. People don't have to do it. It's a luxury. Yeah, maybe. Hopefully you can be one of the corners of the economy that are spared. Because I'm sure if there's money to be made in buying up the companies, and because for sure it will be worse quality, but the thing is customers won't know that until they try to buy it. That's why it's not sustainable. It'll be known very quickly. I think that might be. Honestly, I think that's part of the larger story of private equity. Like, there's a gap between when awareness of how terrible private equity ownership is now is going to be, and what it is now. It's just going to take. Like, there's a lot of money in just buying a company and totally destroying its brand, and until people figure out that, oh yeah, this company's terrible now. So you can, build up a lifetime of trust in something, and then you can just, like, it's like playing the long game, pretending to be someone's friend, and then you just borrow a bunch of money and then, like, disappear forever. That's what private equity does. I have a feeling I may have to revert this change. It was just... I'm again offering you to marry my daughter. I don't know. A live stream chat is not necessarily the best context to meet people, especially when they're not even present, speak on their own behalf. But thank you for the offer, though. I think I may have to revert this change. This is just gonna be too much, too many subtle errors. Let's see. Well, let's make sure this actually works first. I think what I'll do is I'll just move the mask into the screen layer, call the functions on that, and then if that works, then I'll consolidate it. Because the key is, even if it takes, like, if it seems like it's taking longer, if you just do like a larger number of small atomic individual changes that never break the program, then you're in a golden state. Because once you break it, once it's full of breakage, it's just so hard to, like, get out of that state. 8-2, and the ex-US says bye. See you later. Looks like I'm the top fan. Congratulations. You are indeed. You are number one. We need to do some mods in here. Mary, my daughter guy, has to go. Why is that? He's not spamming. He's offered his daughter for marriage at least twice. That's fine. If people want to come to chat and do that, then I'm not going to stop them. All right, I got a null pointer. That shouldn't be null. At one point, does it become spamming? I think I remember last time, it was like over a week ago or something. I tried to think about like what's a reasonable moderation rule, and I think if someone is doing things that interfere with other people's ability to benefit from the chat, I think that's a pretty good global rule. So if someone's just chatting nonsense too much, or if they're like posting just stuff that's going to be inflammatory or make people angry, or like excessive swearing, but I mean it's a tough. I probably should ban and censor more, but I don't know. It requires a lot of brain power. All right, I'm not sure why that would be null. Right, I'm a little bit closer. What province are you in? What are the different types of Canadians? From down here, you're just Canadians, but I imagine you have East Coast Canadians, West Coast Canadians. I am in Ontario. I'm in Kitchener. And in, I would say, yeah, East Coast Canadians are quite different from like Ontario Canadians. Honestly, it's really difficult to answer that question. Have you watched my video on immigration? If you have, that describes my on-the-ground reality here in the last few years. The immigration that we've experienced in the last few years has been like so significant. It's hard to grasp your mind around it. There are still a lot of people here, like older residents who own like suburban houses and stuff like that. But like I went to the grocery store the other day, and I remarked that I walked by three separate couples. They were the only people that I walked by on the sidewalk, and they're all talking to each other, and none of them were speaking in English. So it's hard to describe the on the ground reality without mentioning the immigration. Different types of Canadians. I think the East Coast, like the kind of baby boomer generation European Canadians, a lot of them are like on the East Coast. You could describe them as rednecks. A lot of them are I guess you'd say like unprofessional, politically incorrect. Maybe you could compare them to like Americans of like the Deep South. That would be like a cynical take on them. They're quite friendly. It's a mixed bag. There's some people from where I grew up who are pretty well put together and very ambitious, very hardworking. It's a fairly rural area in most of in the Maritimes, so people are fairly independent. Generally, lots of people. It's not uncommon for people to have their own like farm equipment and stuff, and tractors and whatnot. All right, let's see if that compiles. Almost. Almost. Terminal coding is hardcore. Yep, that's what this channel's all about. right, this looks like it's not crashing. All right, crash fixed. What is terminal coding? Are there other types of coding? I guess depending on how experienced of a programmer you are, I could interpret that as a joke, but I could say that there are no other types of programming, because terminal programming is the true programming. But then I guess if you haven't done much programming, I guess the answers would be using IDEs. So this application over here, if you've seen me use that before, that's another. I would say most people probably most programmers probably use an IDE. The disadvantage of an IDE though is uses a lot more memory, and you have to relearn the IDE all the time because they change everything every few years. It's a different one that's in style. Not a coder, not even a little bit. Yeah, it's just interesting. I find it interesting that there are even people that come here who are not into coding. But I guess it makes sense. People want to see what something looks like that that's out of their element. Yeah, if you, to show you an example. So right now I'm in a terminal. So I'm using a program. It's a text editor called Vim. And if I edit on, well, let me set up the tunnel again. So we're on 7th, 10th. This is just something particular to my setup. Normally you wouldn't have to do that. Give me a second here. $7.10. Oh, that makes sense. I forgot to. I'm just setting up a tunnel so I can open in the IDE. 7.0. Okay. And now I will open the IDE. I'm here for the world domination, but I find the coding interesting. Excellent. Yeah, I'll show you what IDE coding looks like. Once it loads. Said it finished loading, but it lied. All right, so we removed the dependency on mask for that thing. This computer is really slow. Still loading. Okay, let's show what IDE coding looks like. So IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. And most, let's see, so the current file I'm working in that other program is console writer thread, And this is what an IDE looks like. And the advantages of the IDE are, for example, I can click on things. I can like go to implementations. So it's just a more graphical, interactive way of doing stuff. Man, that lag is so bad. I can't even scroll. So player inventory, if I want to like, this is a type of thing. If I want to like go to the definition of that, I can just control click on it, and now I go right to some other piece of code. Whereas in the IDE or in the command line, I'd have to like I'd have to specifically open this file, and so there's some of the navigation is a bit better, but there's pros and cons because as I've illustrated in trying to open this, it took me like 3 minutes to get this thing opened, and it uses tons more memory, and it has like one huge thing is the debugger. So I can click this, and then I can run the program in the context of a debugger, and then I can put like a breakpoint on this thing. So when this function gets called, now I can actually see the state of the program as it's running, and that's that's a TLDR on IDE programming. Asterix Archives. It says good morning / evening. How's it going? Okay, that complaint on line 895. Code looks awful. That's why I'm refactoring it. Java errors. Yep. Oh, I forgot to test one thing. Why use Java for terminal application? Ain't C++ and curses better fit. So I've done enough C and C++ programming to know that I absolutely do not want to be doing like string manipulation in C or C++. I think C++ is just such an absurdly complicated language, and then I have to run like valgrind on it and stuff, and I think that's a very bad choice of language for this type of application. I would consider using ncurses for like mouse support maybe. Ncurses, I've looked into ncurses, and it's it's a pretty it's not thread safe, and there's a lot of stuff. I'm not against using it. I think if I wanted to make this application portable, then maybe I would, but for the most part, it's kind of like it solves a different problem. I have a JNI library in it, so if there's any functions that I really need that are in ncurses, then. But for the most part, I think the API function for it doesn't really have a lot of stuff that I would want to use. Right. I think there's one more. These masks to initialize. All right, that might work. All right, that looks like it's doing what I want. Let's see if that works. All right, that still works. Probably going to not compile because of this. But now it might compile. Now let's see what happens if I do this. we still are using that somewhere. Oh yeah. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Fantastic. It actually works. There's been no regressions. All right, so the point of all that work tonight was I had that independent class screen mask, and in the way the code ended up being, it made a lot of sense for the mask to just be moved, the mask flags to be just moved into the screen layer. So now that has been done, so now I just have less things to keep track of. And probably what I'll do next time is like some of these functions, initialize flags. I'll have to check how I actually use this, but it's probably every time I create an instance of this, I initialize some flags, so I can just like get rid of this function, get rid of the calls to this function, and then just move this into the constructor or something. And that way I have less situations where I'm missing this. And a bunch of these things like initializing stuff, setting the change regions. That could be done automatically instead of via some manual call. Because I had problems before where I'd like miss some of these. And then the eventual thing will be functions like this one. This will become a member function of a screen layer. And then it'll just be like a binary operation between layers. Be like top layer dot merge down output layer or something. Same thing with this function. I can probably actually like optimize these functions a bit so they're faster, have less bugs. But anyway, that'll be next time. Because for tonight we made some progress. But on that note, I will call it an evening. Have a good night, guys. Tomorrow we'll be back for day 78. Later.